This conference will now be recorded.
So only one point which every year I think I talked about this point is that this Swachhta is actually not for just this 15 days. It has to be there on a continuous basis. This is a 24/7 routine, so that you keep your location clean. And now that COVID is another major issue, it is necessary that you have to keep your premises not only in the office but also in your home. Everywhere you have to keep, wherever you are, you keep it very clean. The main issue which we found the COVID spread is because there has been a somewhere, maybe a minor one, minor issue. One of the persons who got this COVID, I had an occasion to talk, and the person said that he had gone to a shop, a departmental store. He was wearing mask, everything, but something there has gone wrong. That is for sure. Otherwise, COVID will not, it will not jump and come. It will only, if you touch only, it will come. Somewhere some contact has happened. So it is necessary that we have to take utmost care, so that there is no way in which this COVID can enter. So this is very important, not only for yourself but your family members, especially if you have young children or if you have old parents or grandparents. That is very, very important, because some of them really do not, normally they don't agree, especially older generation. They may not like themselves to be put under this pressure of putting mask or washing every now and then. All those things they may not do, but somehow you have to coax them and get it done, because unfortunately once it comes, we know that of course there is a news that this going to a vaccine is going to come in India soon, but let it come, then we can decide on this, on its efficacy and all those things. It is all a new one, means there could be a lot of issues. So I always would again and again tell, as part of this Swachhata, you have to have a sort of routine in your life. I mean, the whole life you have to change with a new type of, they call it a new normal now. With a new normal, you have to start and have everywhere your desk. See, this desk, I am cleaning myself every morning here. I am not allowing anybody else to clean it, because it is better to be safe, because there are some people coming here to clean. I told them they don't touch this at all. This portion I will do it myself wherever I am going to touch. So you have to all take care of it. It may be, even if you may feel that it is slightly too much, or it's like a phobia, let anybody talk anything, but it is better to be careful, better to be safe than later on repent on that. Luckily our immunity levels are all quite high, so hopefully even if it comes, we can really hope that it will get cured without much of a difficulty. So these are my points with respect to COVID. And as far as because it is Swachhata is now really interconnected with COVID, that's why I wanted to highlight this part. And Swachhata part, when you are doing also physical cleaning wherever you are doing, please take adequate precaution, cover, I mean, with a face mask and the gloves and all. Don't go. I heard that some places where the sorry, equipments and some papers, files are all kept in our old, not old, of course, new storage yard. A lot of birds are there, bird excreta and all is there. So please be very careful while approaching those locations and trying to fiddle with all those material. And another point which I want to indicate is that cleaning premises is one thing. Another important thing which I've been telling earlier also is, I told this say also earlier with Reddy, I've been telling that we are unnecessarily building up lot of papers which are not required. Some lot of files and documentation which we have. I think starting from maybe the beginning of NIOT, we have got lot of documentation, interview papers and all maybe files which are not of much relevance. So as per the government norm, I have told that they have to be disposed, and a committee also has been constituted. I don't remember who is the chair. I think Dr. Dilsha is the chair, if I remember correct. I'm not sure about that. I think you have to check that. So that committee also has to really take full proactive action to see that files and papers are disposed of also in a standard manner, so that it also should not get into some other issues. If it is just taken away by the some vendor who takes it, they should not go out and then tell that some documentations are being some media should not pick it up and create a big problem also. So you have to do it in a very systematic manner. So these are some of the things, and I also would like to use this opportunity to compliment everybody, because the same team was there last time under the leadership of Dr. Purnima, who won the Swachhta Award for all the MOES institutes as a first prize. So that is really, I have already congratulated through mail, but there was no occasion to specifically talk about this. But now I would like to use this opportunity to congratulate all of you once again. And I would say keep it up, so that I'm sure that with all your efforts, which are really excellent, you will really get the first prize this year also. I am sure about that. So with this, I once again wish you all a very safe passage of this COVID, and all the best for all the activities of Swachhta. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We will now have our first talk for this entire Pakhwada. That is, Shri Rajshekhar will give us a talk on, it is a COVID related as well as Swachhta related topic. So, Rajshekhar ji, you can probably start. You know how to share screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So please take over.
Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. At the very outset, I would like to thank Director NIOT and Dr. Purnima for organizing this important concept of Swachhta, of course, under the guidance of MOES. And it's also very important to have some kind of a clarity, if not a general understanding of Swachhta and what are the related concepts, and how as a technological institute organization, how we can make people aware of various Swachhta concepts. The simple meaning of Swachhta, it's basically clean lines or hygiene. It's a very simple meaning. We sit at a place, we make sure that the surroundings are clean. If any litter is there, we throw it into the dustbin, and dustbin is kept outside or somewhere little away from the place you work. And somebody comes from an office, I mean from home to the office or whatever it is in a vehicle. Suppose he en route he finds his vehicle is broken down, and he makes sure that he pulls it over and parks it at a place where there is the place is reasonably clean enough. And vice versa, you open your car bonnet and you find a lot of dust. You make sure that you clean it up a little bit, and then start working on whatever for the purpose you have opened it. So the basic idea is, it's very important that the Swachhta, that is the clean lines of the surroundings and the hygiene of the surroundings, is very important. In what way? Because it has, if the surroundings are clean, it has a positive effect on the human behavior. And when it is clean, that means generally the oxygen levels are a little high. On the land, I'm talking about on the land situation. once the individual feels good about the place he is working with respect to the clean lines and hygiene, he feels good. He feels good because of higher oxygen levels. And when he feels good, when he or she feels good, that means his efficiency also is better, performance is also better, and it goes on. It goes on. So the basic thing is we need to ensure that the surroundings are clean, surroundings are hygiene, which helps in every aspect of the life. That is health, safety, and rest everything follows. Okay, fine. We keep the things clean. We see that the litter is put out. It's all fine. But what is the way of disposal? You have to have some kind of a mechanism for the disposal of this waste or garbage or the litter. So that's an important thing. Yes, everybody cleans up and it's all piled up somewhere, but that's not the way. That's not the way it goes on. So you need to have a proper disposal plan or waste management plan. Something has to be done. Yes, in many places, yes, in the case of NIOT, we have a plan in place. And in the case of bigger factories, yes, there is a plan in place. But of course, smaller and middle level places, it's not so. Like, for example, you go to a small mechanic shop, you don't find its hygiene. You have the oil waste, you have the rack pieces, you have the metal waste. It's all piled up at some place, which is not good, which is definitely not good with respect to every aspect that I discussed so far. So it's very important that there has to be a proper disposal plan. So on the land, there are many experiments are going on, and many societies are working, many governmental agencies are working, many NGOs are working on especially on the solid waste management and oil waste management, and they are successful to a great extent, and it's being studied. But I'll try to tell you what happens on a ship, because it's also very important. We need to have swachhata on the land, swachhata at sea, swachhata of the air. So once we have the hygiene or cleaning on the land or on the sea, automatically the air quality improves, and then it has positive effects continuously. So now what happens on a ship? How do we do it? First of all, why it is important to have this kind of a environmental friendly issues on the ship? Why swachhata is important on the ship? I mean, people are there, people just clean up the whole place, it's all fine. Everything is under control, but that's not the way, because there are so many systems, engineering systems available on the ship, and there are so much of wastage comes in, and you can't just throw it into sea. It's not good for the living species and for the ocean environmental parameters. So we just see how it happens, and so as you know, this is available in the public domain. There's almost about 12 million tons of waste, garbage or litter goes into the sea. I mean, globally, I'm saying. So this particular thing, I mean, of course, this is per annum. This particular thing, that means it's a huge garbage that is going into the ocean, and it is, in fact, polluting the ocean. How it is polluting? Like, what are the kind of waste that is going, and how this waste can be recycled or can be stopped to get into the sea. So there are some ways that are followed in ships as a mandatory requirement, and especially in NIOT ships, we have enhanced all these requirements to a very great level, and we are seeing the results, especially for the past, I would say 4 years, 4.5 years, we are seeing the results in a very, very positive way. See, like if you look at this picture, I'm sure you all can see this. See, like for example, the microplastics alone, almost 1 million tons per annum that goes into the sea. I mean, of course, you have different types of there is textiles and tire dust and paints, cosmetics. All this goes into the sea. It's all pushed into the sea. By force, it's pushed into the sea. So almost 1 million tons per annum, which is a very, very high. That only from the land, we have almost 9 million tons of garbage that goes into the ocean. If you really, surprisingly, if you look at the fishing litter or litter from the ship, is quite less compared to the litter that is coming from the land. So this actually, of course, most of it goes and settles down at the sea floor. So almost about 90 to 94% of things get settled in the sea floor. Okay, the litter comes, but how does it decompose? Now it's all gone into the sea. Now it's difficult to recover, retrieve, and all that, and it also involves huge money. That's not possible. So how do we actually naturally? How does it decompose? If you look at the decomposing tide, it's actually very surprising and very interesting. If you just take plastic bottle, it takes almost 450 years to completely decompose and get merged with the seawater. And the fishing lines, which is a nylon and Teflon lines, it takes which is a higher version of the plastic. It takes almost 600 years for decomposing. Of course, cigarette butt, a simple cigarette butt, it takes about 1 to 5 years, almost 5 years for the decomposition of a cigarette butt if it is dropped in the sea. So these are all very alarmingly scary when we see all this, and then this should motivate all of us to ensure that swachhata is maintained at sea, that is marine pollution is extremely minimized. So what are the impacts, whether it is for human beings, whether it is for the animals, birds? I mean, it's a very negative impact on this, and you can see this picture. This is also available in the public domain, and these birds pick up the fishes that are available on the surface, and without knowing it's a plastic or some other object, so they pick it up and swallow it, and this is how it happens. Okay, now especially in ships, this swachhata aspect is given a topmost significance, and because any infection, any disease which can be transmitted, whether within the country or globally, these ships they play a significant role. So the contracting of the virus from the ships, in fact, it is a proven fact, and there is a lot of study, especially respiratory contract is quite common from the ports and the ships. So it's very important that swachhata is maintained on board ships. And in fact, I must tell you that we maintain a very good level of swachhata on board ships, but of course there is always a scope to improve. And when we talk of quarantine, so whenever there is this kind of diseases or plagues are broken on the ship, so this quarantine, this word actually has come from the maritime background, because whenever in any ship, if there is any plague or any virus, so the entire ship used to be under quarantine for 37 to 40 days. So this word actually has come from there, and I'm sure most of you may be aware of it. So in fact, history, it has a tendency to repeat itself. These are some pictures where in one of the British ships there was a plague, and a lot of people died, and they were brought to the shore. And in fact, that is when the medical examination of passengers that they go on the ship has commenced. And you can see, especially the yellow fever. You can see yellow flag on the ship. Yellow flag. So that is a it denotes that there is an yellow fever or there is a plague on the ship. So people who go on the ship, they are aware that yellow fever injection vaccine has to be taken. This is how that word has come into. There seems to be some problem with my PPT. I'm just checking it. It's hanging like. Sorry, I'll just stop sharing and then come back to sharing because I think system is hanging. Yeah. So in fact, this what we see for the COVID poster, it's also come from the ship in 19th century. This is how you can see the left one. Okay, now we'll come to the actual waste that is actually generated on ships, how it is disposed, how it is recycled, how it is crushed. So there are different ways of doing it, and because there are different types of waste. You have the plastics, you have the food waste, you have the domestic waste, oils, and you have the incinerator ashes, because some of the waste is burnt in the incinerator, so you have the ashes. You can't just push all these things into the sea. That's not correct. Statutorily it's not correct, environmentally it is not correct. So how it is done, like you have so many kind of waste you can see on the screen, like sewage is another thing. Almost it's almost about 0.06 tons per person per day. It's generated. If you see the oily bilge water separator, almost 13 tons per day in larger ships. I'm talking about bigger ships, and okay, in smaller ships the generation is not this much, but still the process remains same at a smaller scale. And you can see the kind of generation rates for the food waste and domestic waste. It's quite huge, even for a middle level ship. So how do we actually, we have the different waste, different garbage types, different types of garbage, how it is actually generated on a ship, how it is collected, and how it is separated, and how it is processed, and how it is discharged into the sea, or it is brought to the port for handing over, for recycling on the land. So if you see this flow chart, you can see the generation of the garbage and the collection. So some waste is reusable, some waste is not reusable. If it is reusable, what is the extent of reusable? And we have some chemical processing methods, we have some crushing aspects, some burning, burn some of the waste. So different processes are involved. So based on all this, we, like for example, oily water separator is there. So oil and water is separated through the equipment, oily water separator, and the water is discharged into sea. Oil. This is a sludge. It's basically, it's not a pure oil. It's a very impure oil. So they are degenerated oil. This oil is taken into the sludge tanks. So like that, for different waste, we have different process, and accordingly it is stored inside the ship, or if it is a water, it is pushed into the sea. Of course, this has to be done outside the EEZ of the country. You can see this work and see, like for example, waste flow diagram of oily bilge water. This is what I was just saying. So how it is generated, first, because of the condensation in the, you have huge engine rooms, and there's so much of heat is there, and some cooling chambers are also there for different, coolers are there for different equipments. So how it is generated, condensation and some leakage here and there, some pipeline, there are different engineering, like seawater pipelines are there, freshwater pipelines are there, oil pipelines are there, diesel pipelines are there. and recycling pipelines are there, sewage pipelines are there. So there are some leaks here and there in the engine room or any part of the ship. So this is how this oily bilge water is separated, generated, and it goes into the oily bilge tank, and then it runs. The oil and water is separated. Water and oil and these are all taken into the waste oil tank, and water is pushed into the sea, and oil from the sludge tank is given to the port reception facility once the ship comes back to the port. And if you see the generation, almost, of course, though it depends on the ship, in our case, in Sagar Nidhi, we have per day almost about 13 tons. Of course, it varies on the speed and the location and various aspects, but on an average, about 8 to 9 tons of generation is there. This is included total water, oil, and everything. And similarly, you have a waste flow diagram for the oil residues. This also, we have the same process. We have the sludge tanks and waste fuel tanks, and the whole thing goes through an evaporator. It gets evaporated and then condensed. The water is pushed out, and whatever can go through an incinerator, it will go through incinerator, and the rest will go into the PRF. Whatever is the sludge kind of oil, whatever thick oil, degenerated oil, which cannot be pushed, which will not be, which should not be pushed into the sea, that will go to PRF facility. And similarly, CH. This is a very important thing because this has a direct bearing on the habitability of the ship. So in the toilets, whatever is generated through the flush, so water and all that, so it goes to a CH treatment plant. It's called STP, and it's treated there through chemically. Of course, different ways are there. Chemically, it is treated, and so disinfection is taken care by and large. I don't say 100%. There are ways to improve the system, but by and large, it's disinfected, and then it goes into a holding tank. The water portion will go into sea, and other portion to a grey water tank, and then once the ship comes to PRF, that is port reception facility, it will be taken. So this how, I mean, with respect to CH, with respect to oily water separator, this is how the Swachhata on board ship is maintained, because this is very dangerous. Like suppose you have oil leaks here and there in the engine room. People go to the engine room for different works, or inside the ship, people take a walk, and you have the oil, people may slip, and it's a health hazard, and there are many negative impacts, and it's also a combustible. Oil is also combustible. So it's made sure that the entire thing is taken into oil tanks or sludge tanks, and then it's taken out at the port. And you have the plastic waste. Of course, this is another dangerous waste because they are not degradable. So we have the different bin system is there. So, and whatever can go through incinerator, it will go, and the rest is stacked up in the ship in an isolated place. And once the ship comes to the PRF, it will be taken out. But it doesn't have a separate storage tank as such, but a storage compartment is there, which has a proper ventilation system, forced ventilation. And then once the ship comes to the thing, to the port, the PRF facility, it has to go. And similarly, the food waste. This is another important thing, because the consumption of the food and fresh water and the usage of galley is extremely high, and there is a lot of waste is generated, but most of the waste is soft waste and it's not hard. So I mean, it can be there are ways of separation, especially in bigger ships, and once it is separated, so when it is crushed, as long as it generates some water that goes into the sea, and the rest will be stored in the bags or bins, and then it will be given to the PRF. And similarly, we have a similar thing for the domestic waste. This is also another important waste. that will cause a lot of damage if it's not handled properly. So some people may wonder, okay, whether all this is actually done on ships, because the people who are the scientists, are the passengers, don't really look at these aspects. In fact, this is one of the reasons our director has insisted that everybody whosoever joins NIOT has to go on an onboard ship and spend at least about a week's time. Even at harbor and at sea. I think that was a very smart move, and that is followed, of course. So this is and another thing is cooking oil separation and how it is treated. It's also taken as a sludge, and obviously degenerated oil is quite dangerous, and even at a temperature of 60-70 degrees, it generates dangerous fumes. So mostly it is stored in the sludge tanks, and then it will go to the PRF facility. And ashes. This is another, some of the waste, it will be burnt in the incinerator. So the ash cannot be thrown into the sea. So it will be taken into the bags and then stored inside the compartment. There are 2-3 compartments. The void spaces are used basically for this. And then once the ship reaches the port, it will be given to the PRF. So if you see the generation rates given below the slide, it's quite big. So mostly the volume is reduced mostly by crushing and running the separators on a daily basis very frequently. And this is operational waste. Of course, this is cargo handling, while handling and while moving, while working in the engine room, while working anywhere, you will generate some waste, whether it's oil waste, small metal waste, but all this need to be handled, because that's also quite important. You do some routine on the batteries and you pour a lot of distilled water or acid around earlier. Now, of course, it's all maintenance-free batteries. So these are all operational waste also need to be handled carefully. And of course, we have incinerators on the ship, so it is after incineration, so it will go into the some storage facility and then go to PRF. So in fact, ship sanitation scheme, if you really look at it, these are all. Not all of this is a part of a IMO requirement or a DG shipping requirement on a full scale. Most of it is there, but we have enhanced to improve the habitability conditions on board ship, and also reduce, cockroaches and rats and all that, especially with regards to the food waste. We have taken special care. So we are, by and large, our ships are maintained a good level of swachhata, and we have been successful so far. Of course, there is a scope to improve. So this is a ship sanitation scheme, and you can see it. It's a self-explanatory. So there is a proper check-off list for everything. How a sanitation system is maintained and how the ventilation system is maintained. So there is a good check-off list, and on the ship, is a responsible person is identified to ensure that this is all done. And once it's generally the places, especially dining halls, galley, this is how it looks, especially after the food is prepared. This is how it is made, and it's kept very clean. If you have noticed on board ships also, after the breakfast, the entire housekeeping team comes to each and every accommodation room, chambers, and it's all clean. And then incinerators are operated. So it's a 24-hour work to handle this particular thing, to maintain swachhata on the ship. It's a 24-hour activity. And of course, pest control, all this is a part of this process, and the add-ons. On a ship, of course, it's very difficult to do pest control on a regular basis. because the people are on board and it's a confined space. You can't send the people out. Even on the port also there are restrictions. So it has to be done in a way, in an organized way, and especially for galley and messes, it's regularly done localized pest control as part of Swachhata. And also, if there is any problem, medical centers is available on the ships, and it's also maintained to tackle any emergency situations. So I always believed, along with my team, that to maintain Swachhata, it's important to employ the technology so that it's much easier, the effort is much easier, and we are able to make it more mechanized, and we are able to handle it with less effort, with more efficiency. Like, for example, sanitation system in one of our ships, Sagar Nidhi, when we took over the ship, sanitation system, we had serious problems. So after detailed study and after understanding the whole thing, so now, I mean, I would say we hardly have any problems on this. We have isolated each and every deck, each and every compartment. If there is a problem somewhere, we know, okay, this is how it has to be handled. This is where the problem is. So the maintaining clean lines and hygiene within the ship, especially sanitation system, it has become very easy when we employed a little bit of technology into this. In fact, based on this, other ships also started following. And also ventilation system, this is very important, and especially when the ship goes to, like, for example, Chennai port or Paradip port, you have the sulfur fumes coming into air intake, or iron ore coming into the dust of iron ore coming into the thing. So we have established a proper mechanism now. Of course, it's a manual thing, and so a lot of filters are incorporated, and they are cleaned on a regular basis, and also in the AC ducting system also we have incorporated separate system. So the Swachhata with respect to air conditioning system is also maintained very well. And also for fresh water, what is done is hot water circulation of fresh water is done, so that it also acts as a less bacteria by circulating the hot water. This is done as part of increasing the hygiene of the fresh water, because what fresh water we get from the ports, and it's not so high quality. Whatever is generated on the ship, yes, it's fine. And a lot of especially in the engine rooms, what happens is so much of leaks, oil leaks, water leaks is there, and it's very, and this is the bilges that is below the bilge plate, so you don't have much of access, and there are a lot of practical problems. And this way what is happening is the hygiene of the engine room is not, we were unable to maintain. Then we came up with the idea, especially in small ships, to have the inflatable seal arrangement, and then that's a big success, because we hardly find any water or oil leak now through the shaft seals. That is, shaft seals is the propeller shaft seals, which is the water from outside, seawater from outside keeps coming into the engine rooms. So now that is considerably reduced. So similarly, some clad welding concepts we have employed. So this way what has happened is, these are all very much environmental friendly. So too much of welding is not involved, too much of machining is not involved. Thereby we are reducing the metal dust and metal scrap and all that. And so we are reducing the disposal effort, we are reducing the effort to clean the whole workshop. And this is another successful solution that we employed on the ship. And similarly, hull, what happens is the dead, the barnacles will have a lot of sea growth with the barnacles and dead species and all that. So what happens is, this way, because of this, they create a lot of resistance to the ship, and fuel consumption used to go very high. So of course, as per the standard format, every 2 years ship is dry docked and all this is cleaned, and then fuel consumption is reduced because when we have a very smooth surface, hull surface, fuel consumption reduces. But in addition to that, what we do is once in 3 months, especially small ships, we clean up the entire hull by using the divers, and that is really helping. Why I'm saying higher fuel consumption? Because that has a negative impact on the atmosphere. So that means more fuel consumption, more carbon dioxide, more carbon monoxide, NOx, SOx, and we are actually spoiling the marine environment. And this is how it's done. And this way, see, for one with Swachh Bharat concept, you integrate the technical solutions. We are increasing the efficiency. We are achieving the Swachhata. We are reducing the health hazards. We are increasing the safety measures. So with one simple solution, we are able to achieve so many things. So clean lines is, of course, is godliness, and especially in the welding, what happens is when the metal welding takes place, there is so much of heat is generated. Simple arc welding, almost about 50 amps of current is required, and there's so much of metal flux.
Can you please excuse me? Can you please excuse me? We may run out of time, so would you mind winding up in a few minutes, because some of us have.
Sure. It's almost over. It's almost over.
Thank you.
Okay, so basically what is done is, idea is to have the surface extremely clean and reduce the metal flux, reduce the flames. Thereby the atmospheric hygiene is maintained. At the same time, the surrounding hygiene is maintained. This we have adopted a backstrip welding, so which is a highly successful thing, and this way we have reduced almost about 60% of the welding effort, which means that the pollution levels also reduced, which means the concept of Swachhata is really employed in this in a proper way. And there are many other solutions like this, which has helped environmental friendly things, and accordingly. And another most important thing is the emissions from the ships. Besides carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, we also have the NOx and SOx, and that's very dangerous because most of it is toxic, and especially for marine engines, marine ships having the high HP marine diesel, like 50,000 HP, 1 lakh HP engines. So it's quite, and they don't use high quality fuel, that is low sulfur fuel, they don't use because of economics. So they use a crude oil. So NOx, SOx levels are very, very, very high. And in fact, VMC has done a study on this, and we have developed a model because the solutions to reduce these emissions, there are about half a dozen solutions are there, but we have used a nano material. We have tested on a 500 HP engine. So the levels have come down drastically. And also because of this, the fuel consumptions have come down, and which means we are ensuring a good hygiene of the marine environment. This is how Swachhata on board. Of course, COVID, this is there, and on the ships, we are ensuring a proper measures to handle this. Touch wood, last 3 months, we have not had any cases on our ships. So because of our efforts, and of course these are the things which we are ensuring, sanitization. Even when the food comes, the provisions come to the ship, also there's a proper handling of entire thing is taken. So some of the tips for scientific cruising and operations.
Rajshekar?
Yes.
Is it possible to wind up now, if you don't mind?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. So this is a conclusion. If you see, thank you so much. Thanks again.
Thank you very much for a really nice and refreshing talk, because we normally have very technical things. This was very different, and really sad that the time is slightly short, because some of us have got meetings after this also. So Dr. Ramdas himself has to leave. So thank you very much once again. Just a small request before Ramdas starts. Do you mind all of you just turning on your cameras? We want to take a screenshot, please, and then we will start with Dr. Ramdas's talk. Please, just for a second. Trishanu, can you do it? Trishanu, tell me once you are done.
Yes. It is done, ma'am. It is done.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Can we now start with Dr. Ramdas's talk, please?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, you can be heard. Ramdas, please go ahead.
Yes, audible. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, everything is there.
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. I hurriedly made a presentation and I will not take more than 15 minutes for this one. Generally, whenever we study a subject, we go back to the meaning. What is meant by Swachh? Is it clean? Is it pristine? Or is it pure? I believe that it is all of the above and more, because Swachh has no appropriate English word for this one. So, and Bharat includes not only just land, but also I believe that it includes the exclusive economic zone and other areas that are being allotted to India by International Seabed Authority and United Nations. So whatever we are doing here, the Swachh Bharat should be extended to these areas also. So as you can see, the deep sea mining is little less messier than the land mining, and it produces less pollution and less debris. This is, I'm not saying this because just we are actually developing technologies for ocean mining, but this is true actually. So you can see, I don't want to go into all the details, from cutting the rocks and disposing the waste rocks and tailings and other things, and to rehabilitation and equipment failure and impacts from the dust and undersea plumes and all, whatever you take, actually this has lesser impact on the area that is actually being mined when compared to the land mine. Okay, so briefly, India has known resources of cobalt, nickel, and iron and other material, other strategic metals. So we have to necessarily look into the that resources that are available to us. We don't have much choice in that. But it's only the actually we have only one choice to make it little less polluting than what is happening on the land. So this it started in 1983 or even beyond before that one, when the first nodules were actually collected by NIO Goa on a research vessel. Then we filed an application with International Seabed Authority, and we were identified as the pioneer investor along with a few other nations. And we have been allotted an area in the Indian Ocean, which is at around I think 13 to 15 degrees south and around 75 degrees east, around 50, actually 150,000 square kilometers area was given to us. We surveyed that area and retained an area of 75,000 square kilometers. And these are the quantities of nodules available there. So immediately, Government of India at the time, Department of Ocean Development started 4 programs, one on exploration, second on mining, third on environmental impact analysis, and fourth one on metallurgy. So even then, the importance of environmental impact has been realized. So these are the institutions that are actually were given the responsibility of executing these projects. The NIO was given the responsibility of exploration and environmental impact analysis also. And NIOT, of course, has been given the responsibility of developing the technology. And IMT Bhubaneswar has been entrusted with extracting metals from the nodules that are mined. So we have been carrying out this exploration for last almost more than 2 decades. And as I told earlier, we are the pioneer investors. So we have additional responsibility of keeping the Indian Ocean pristine. And this is the only ocean that was named after a country. So we have additional responsibility. So when we go for the exploration of minerals, it is our responsibility to do some baseline studies to establish what are the environmental parameters. And we are supposed to monitor to ensure that no serious harm is done to marine environment, including flora and fauna available there. So you can see how strict are the guidelines given by International Seabed Authority. We should be not only willing to maintain these actually guidelines, but also we should allow the inspectors or the some kind of experts to board our vessels and see our equipment and see what we are doing at any time without any hindrance to their actually the inspection. Then what are the potential environmental impacts that can occur because of the deep sea mining? One is that we just disturb the soil, actually that is on the seabed, and next is the suspension of solids. But we are fortunate here because our mineral is actually a 2-dimensional mineral here. It is not stuck to the sea bottom. So they are like potatoes thrown on the sea floor. We can easily pick them. So we can disturb as little as possible on the seabed. And of course, water column, we have taken some precautions not to actually allow these plumes to linger for a long time and the sediments to be suspended for a long time. And of course, we always avoid the oil spills from the ship, and we don't use any oil in our mining machines at all, except for a few liters of hydraulic oil. So we just avoid the oil spills there. And then at sea waste, including chemicals and other things, we don't process our minerals there. So this hazard is very much less. Of course, we can't avoid the human waste because of there are around 50 personnel on the ship. So some kind of human waste is actually always disposed into the sea. So this is the cartoon actually that explains the components of the mining machine. As you can see, we have a mining machine which collects the nodules, and after collecting, it is mixed with seawater and pumped to the mothership. But one good thing is that it is done through a closed system so that nothing leaks out actually. So if there is a leak, actually, we will not have developed enough pressure to pump it. So we avoid the pollution here. Once it comes to this thing, the remaining, that's actually very little sediment comes up, but whatever comes up, that has to be again put back into the sea. But it is actually mandatory to put it just below the actually oxygen minimum zone so that it doesn't affect any flora and fauna. It should be as close to the sea bottom as possible. So these are actually the disturbances that can be caused. And as you can see, the collection affects the seafloor, separation affects the seafloor, lifting can affect the water column also, and washing can actually be even extended to that one. Last two rows, if you see, this is not going to happen because we are not going to do the extraction in the sea. So these are the flora and fauna that can be affected by this mining. These are all almost microfauna. Actually, there is not much of megafauna available here. So there is very little possibility of any disturbance to them. And yes, surface discharge, we can actually, after collecting the nodules and all, we can wash them and we can discharge the remaining actually metal cuttings or any distance and all. But if you put them on the surface, it can affect the sunlight and it can affect the actually almost all the food chain starting from the zooplankton. I don't want to go into the details. So these are the potential water column impacts that can happen. Probably our marine biotechnology people will be more interested in these details. Then coming to at sea processing, we are not processing any metals there, but we can transfer the ore, we can transport the ore. During that time, that there can be some spillage and all, there can be some kind of pollution happening at that point. So what are the global efforts that were undertaken to understand the impacts of mining? That is actually, I'm not listing the Indian efforts here, but internationally, deep ocean mining environment, OMI has done these studies, and also one German group has performed these studies, and then Interocean Metals and European Consortium also has done that one. They just mimicked the actions of mining, and they saw what are the effects of this action can be on the marine environment there. And these are the watchdog agencies. They keep a very like an eagle eye on all the experiments and the technological developments. There are demonstrations that happen in the areas and all. If any nation errs, then we have to pay a stiff penalty for that one. And there are very strict environmental management plans. Actually, these are very well defined, and these have to be implemented. They have to be agreed upon when we start the exploration or when the exploitation, and they have to be adhered very strictly. So from Indian side, an experiment was done in 1997. Mining was simulated there, and how long this effect lasts on the seafloor and the sediments and all, it has been evaluated there. And from then on, actually, a lot of experiments were conducted, a lot of data has been collected as the baseline data, because before we do any experiments and disturb something, what is the baseline? What is already available there? What is going to be disturbed has to be established. So that was done. And of course, with our own ROV also, we have collected a lot of data, and we found out that there are actually 2 oxygen minima are there, not 1 actually. So while disposing of the trialings and the sediments, we have to be very careful. And there are some microfauna also, like we have collected. They are called radiolarans and all, and they are also going to be disturbed when we do the mining. Now, this is the concept we have evolved. This is our mining machine on the sea bottom, and you can see a pump suspended just 200 meters above that one. And through a riser, all this material is actually transported to the surface sheet. And of course, before actually we go for the experimental mining that is going to take place probably in February, March 2021, we need to submit one environmental impact study or environmental impact assessment plan. Actually, we have to submit. For that, along with NIO Goa, we started developing some deep sea moorings with the help of our Ocean Observation Systems group. We have identified 3 areas. One is impact reference zone, and one is experiment zone, and one is a spare area. We are supposed to put these moorings with the actually sediment traps and current meters and all, and we have to collect the baseline data at these places. This is how the moorings look like. And after deploying there, before, during, and after the mining demonstration, we have to collect this data and we have to submit it to International Civil Authority. And while designing our mining system, we have taken some precautions for minimizing the pollution there or environmental impact there. Sediment penetration is actually minimal. We don't go by more than half a meter, and then we avoid. Actually, we consolidate the soil there. When the mining machine actually walks on the soil, it compacts the soil on which it actually walks. So, and we reduce the mass of sediment that is actually swirled, and also we reduce the spillage during the pumping and all. So Also, the reduced discharge of tailings on the surface, and the collector device is made in such a way that it minimizes the interaction with the seabed. And second thing is, when we transfer these nodules to the crusher or to the mining machine, there itself they get washed, and most of the sediment is left near the sea bottom itself, which is actually it's a very it's appreciated and recommended stuff by International Seabed Authority. And also, in the beginning, we thought we should not leave any area unmined. Actually, we should keep our machine tracks very close and all. Later, we were told that it's better to leave some strips undisturbed so that regeneration also can take place. We are considering these things when we are actually making our mining machine. As you can see, the tracks and all, they compact the soil on which they walk, and we have taken precautions not to spill any oils during our operation. So with all these things, so far, actually all areas of Pacific and Atlantic have these regional environmental plans accepted by International Seabed Authority, but Indian Ocean has been sadly left behind. So our Indian delegation, when they participated in one of the council meetings, we raised this point, and now India has been asked to host a workshop on the development of regional environmental plans. They're called REMS, and Ministry of Earth Sciences has taken up that challenge, and probably it will be given to NIOT. Probably that will be decided by Ministry of Earth Science after discussing with NIOT authorities. But if all goes well, India may host this workshop or NIOT Chennai at NIOT Chennai in March 2021. So we are going to play a major role in this kind of regional environmental management plan that is going to be drafted by Indian Ocean. So I conclude my talk saying that, okay, we are literally churning the ocean, and we know what was supposed to have happened when it was done last time. Okay, a lot of halahal came before all the riches and that Amrut came out. So, but I think now we are wiser. So now we can let us avoid halahal, that is pollution and environmental disturbance, and let's only get Amrut. And with this, I conclude my talk, and I thank all the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Dr. Ramdas, for a very good talk. I have to go for another meeting. So Satya, can you please wind up and announce the other programs for these and the events that are going to take place? Once again, Rajshekhar ji and Ramdas ji, thank you both very, very much for agreeing at short time and participating in this. Thanks again for those who have participated today. And Satya, you can take over. Okay, I'm sorry, I have to leave. Huh? Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. So before going into formally thanking everyone, let me list out the activities that are going to take place in this Swachhata Pakhwada. So we had 2 talks today. Similar to these talks, we have several number of talks planned for next week. So please do join in. So all of the participants who have participated today, we thank them. So please join us for the series of talks that we have planned already for the next week. And in addition to these talks, we have planned for events and competitions like life cycle analysis competition and disaster management planning for the COVID handling at NIOT. And Hindi debate is also planned on Swachhata, that is Swachhata through Swachhata. So this Hindi debate will also be conducted next week. And these are the part of the activities planned for technical groups. And for admin groups also, there are series of activities planned. And whoever keeps their seating place neat and clean, they'll be going to get a prize. And this competition is going to be there for the admin groups, and various other activities are also planned for the admin groups. And masks and sanitizers will be distributed to all our self-help group people. And you know all that campus cleaning has already been started with small groups doing the work with proper physical distancing. and various other activities also we have planned that will be published in the Samudra, and as well as invitations will be coming to your mail. So please do join us for various other activities, and please do participate in all the competitions. So let me start the Thanksgiving formality with first thanking our director, who has been the pillar of support and guiding us to all the activities. Thank you, sir. And I would like to place on record my sincere thanks on behalf of the Swachh Bharat committee for the speakers who have talked today and who are going to talk in the further week. And my sincere thanks to all the people who have contributed and rendered support to Swachh Bharat activities, from estate maintenance, computer cell, establishment and personnel, stores and purchase, finance and accounts and security. So thanks one and all, and thanks for the participation. And thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. So that completes the first Swachh Bharat talk from Rajsekhar sir and Ramlas sir. Hope the same kind of participation happens in further talks also. Thanks everyone. Krishanu?
Yes, sir. I'm closing the meeting.
Yeah, thank you.